My parents dragged me to court over a mobile home, a brand new 2024 Clayton double-wide that I bought outright with $152,000 I'd scraped together after 10 brutal years welding pipe in the Bakken oil fields. I was 32 years old, hands scarred from burns and calluses thick as leather, when the dealer in Williston handed me the title. For weeks later, I got served papers right in the man camp trailer where I was crashing between hitches. Ronald and Linda Brooks v. Caleb Brooks, demanding I sign over the home to my 28-year-old brother Tyler, because he needed stable housing to stay clean. I read the complaint 3 times under the humming LED light in that tin can trailer, the wind howling outside at -20, propane heater kicking on and off like it was gasping. I didn't laugh this time. I just felt something cold settle in my gut. My own father had signed his name at the bottom with that same blocky military script he'd used on every report card and disciplinary note growing up. My mother had driven to the courthouse to pay the filing fee herself, probably dabbing her eyes for the clerk like she did for everyone else. My name is Caleb Brooks, 32, pipeline welder, UA Local 798 out of Tulsa but mostly rigged up in North Dakota. And up until that moment, I'd still clung to the dumb idea that if you kept your head down, worked your ass off, and never asked for a damn thing, your family might at least let you keep what was yours. Turns out, even that was asking too much when the favorite son was spiraling, and they were willing to torch everything to keep him comfortable. We grew up in a split-level ranch house in Greeley, Colorado, the kind with shag carpet that smelled like cigarette smoke and disappointment no matter how many times Mom Febrezed it. Dad, Ron Brooks, 60 now, retired Army sergeant turned safety supervisor on construction sites, ran the family like we were still in barracks, inspections, lectures, and consequences for me, endless second chances for Tyler. Mom, Linda, 58, worked as a cashier at the Walmart pharmacy, spent her days turning Dad's barking orders into soft guilt that wrapped around your neck like a scarf you couldn't take off. She was the master of the wounded sigh, the tearful after all we've done for you, even when all they'd done was let me fend for myself while pouring everything into Tyler. Tyler came along when I was 4, colicky and loud from day one. From then on, everything revolved around keeping him calm, keeping him happy. Dad called him my little soldier, even when he was failing classes and getting suspended. Mom babed him like he was made of glass, excusing every screw-up as he's sensitive or he's going through a phase. I was the rough draft, the one who mowed lawns, stocked shelves, and fixed the leaky roof without thanks. He was the final copy, the one who got the new clothes, the gaming consoles, the bailouts. At 10, I was shoveling snow from 4 driveways every storm to buy my own boots and gloves. Tyler at 10 got a dirt bike because he needs an outlet for his energy. Dad's exact words, while he told me to toughen up. At 15, I worked nights stocking shelves at King Soopers. Tyler at 15 wrecked his first truck, Dad's old Chevy, joyriding with buddies, and got a newer Ford F-150 replacement because boys will be boys, and he needs reliable wheels for school. Dad bragged about Tyler's potential to anyone who'd listen, while barely acknowledging my straight A's or welding awards. At 19, I headed north to the oil boom with a welding cert, a duffel bag, and $300. Tyler at 19 dropped out of community college after 1 semester, started partying harder, and Dad co-signed for a Mustang because he needs something to look forward to. That Mustang got repoed 6 months later after he missed payments while couch surfing. Dad called me from the living room at 2 a.m. one night. Your brother's in a bad spot, Caleb. He's talking about checking into rehab again. Could use some help with the entry fee. I wired $5 grand. Dad never said thanks. Just, Tyler says appreciate it. Mom followed up with a text. You're such a good big brother. Tyler really looks up to you. They always painted Tyler as the victim, the sensitive one, the one life had dealt a bad hand. Even as he blew through money, friends, and chances. Dad would bark at me for not calling enough, but he'd drop everything to drive Tyler to court dates or pick him up from parties gone wrong. Mom sent me guilt-laden cards on holidays, enclosing photos of Tyler smiling, with notes like, wish you were here to help him through this rough patch. They enabled him at every turn, then turned to me to clean up the mess, like my role was perpetual rescuer. I lived in man camps that reeked of unwashed bodies and diesel fumes, worked 100-hour weeks when crude hit spikes, welding in blizzards that froze your beard solid, thawing fingers over coffee cans on barrel fires. No bars, no weekends off, no new anything until the soles on my Red Wings were flapping. By early 2025, I'd stacked $180,000 in a high-yield account, credit score 820. I walked into a manufactured home dealership outside Williston, picked out the exact Clayton model I'd been eyeing online. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, farmhouse style with quartz counters and a real fireplace insert. Sticker around $152,000 delivered and set up on a lot I'd leased near Dickinson. Paid $120,000 cash down. Financed the rest at 5.2%. Title in my name alone. North Dakota plates on the hitch when they delivered it. I was dumb enough to invite the folks up for a weekend to see it. Tyler was sprawled on the couch in the old house when I pulled up with photos on my phone, wearing the same sweatpants he'd had on for days, eyes red from whatever he'd been smoking. He scrolled through the pics, sat up straight. Damn, bro. That's nice. Real nice. I thought he was just impressed. Then he asked if he could crash there sometime. Get away from the chaos at home. Mom teared up, hugged me, said how proud she was, while slipping in. It would mean the world to Tyler. Dad grunted approval from his recliner, adding, family looks out for each other. I left feeling like maybe I'd finally done something they noticed. 2 days later, Tyler posted on Facebook. Him photoshopped into the living room of my new home. Caption, Big Bro hooked it up with the new spot. Finally got a place to focus on getting clean. Blessed. It got hundreds of likes from old high school friends. Comments like, so proud of you, Tyler. And Caleb's always been the responsible one. I messaged him to take it down. He replied with a laughing emoji. Chill, man. People know it's yours. Then Mom posted a tearful video. Prayers for my youngest as he battles addiction. Thank God his brother provided a safe place for him to recover. Tagged me, tagged my company, even tagged the dealership. She played the martyr perfectly, voice quivering, eyes glistening for the camera. I called Tyler furious. He didn't pick up. Dad called instead, voice low and hard, the same tone he'd used to chew me out as a kid. Son, we're all disappointed. That home was meant to help Tyler get stable. You knew he needed it. I told him there was no such plan. I'd bought it for myself after years of nothing. He said, we've talked to a lawyer. You can deed it over quietly, or we'll handle it in court. Family helps family. Mom chimed in on speaker. How can you be so selfish, Caleb? After everything. He hung up. I sat in my rig in a truck stop outside Watford City, wind rocking the cab, staring at the summons the deputy handed me through the window. My parents were suing me for my $152,000 home. The complaint claimed a long-standing family understanding that any major asset I acquired would be available for Tyler's needs, especially during recovery. They alleged unjust enrichment because I'd benefited from family support early on. Claimed Tyler's relapse risk created emotional distress, and that stable housing was critical for his sobriety. Dad's signature bold and unyielding. Mom's loopy cursive underneath like she was signing a sympathy card. I hired Maria Gonzalez the next week, a no-nonsense attorney out of Bismarck who'd handled oil worker disputes before. She read the filing, shook her head. This is frivolous on its face. No written agreement, no proof of any promise. We're countering hard. Discovery dragged on for months. They subpoenaed every bank statement I'd ever had, hunting for any deposit from Mom or Dad that could be spun as seed money. Found zilch. Subpoenaed my rig boss, asking if I'd ever mentioned the home was for Tyler. He wrote back, Caleb's the most reliable welder I've got. Works circles around guys half his age. His folks never even called to check on him. Tyler showed up to his deposition in a new North Face jacket I'd sent him for his birthday the year before. He cried on cue, voice cracking dramatically, said I'd always been the cold one, that I'd promised years ago to help him when he got serious about recovery. Claimed Dad had told us both that the oldest takes care of the youngest when times get tough. He painted himself as the tragic hero, me as the heartless villain. Maria pulled up Ring camera footage from the lot where I'd parked the home temporarily. Tyler at 3 a.m., trying the doors, then spray painting, give it up, across the side in orange. $3,800 in damage. He called it venting frustration, shrugging like it was no big deal. Mom's depot was painful. She dabbed at dry eyes with a tissue she'd brought just for show. Talked about Tyler's multiple rehabs, how he'd been clean for weeks now but needed structure. When Maria asked why they didn't just buy him a used single-wide for $30,000 if housing was the issue, Mom said quietly, voice laced with that familiar guilt trip tone, that wouldn't be right. Caleb earned his. He can always make more money out there. Tyler, he just can't right now. She said it like it was noble, like sacrificing me was the only fair thing. Dad went last, sitting military straight in his faded Broncos cap. Told the judge, out of habit, yes, sir. Claimed he'd pulled me aside before I left for the fields. Make us proud, son, and look out for your brother. Said part of my savings came from tools he'd bought me early on. Maria handed over receipts. Every welder, grinder, hood purchased on my own cards. Dad barely flinched, just doubled down with that stubborn sergeant glare. Uncle Ray, Dad's brother, drove up from Denver for trial. He'd watched the favoritism for years, finally had enough. Brought old bank records showing Grandpa's small inheritance split evenly, but Tyler blew his share on parties while I saved mine for certs. Trial was in Burleigh County Courthouse, late fall 2025. I wore the one decent button-down I owned. Mom wore a cross necklace and that wounded look she'd perfected over decades. Tyler showed up in designer sneakers, scrolling his phone like he was bored. Dad stared straight ahead like I was a recruit who'd gone AWOL, his jaw set in that unyielding way that used to scare me as a kid. Their lawyer opened with a slideshow titled, The Brooks Family Commitment. One slide was Tyler at 16, posing in front of a dealership brochure for a similar home, captioned Dreams on Hold. Maria objected to the theatrics. Judge sustained but let it stand. Dad testified calmly, weaving a story of implied promises with the confidence of a man who'd never admitted wrong. Mom talked about Tyler's latest rock bottom, tears flowing on command, how the home could be his fresh start, while glancing at me with betrayal in her eyes. Tyler took the stand, voice cracking, said he couldn't stay sober in the basement anymore, that knowing I had space he wouldn't share triggered him. He played the victim masterfully, sniffling about how I'd abandoned the family. Then Maria called me. I laid it out plain. Every overtime check, every frozen shift, every lonely night. Showed pay stubs totaling over $1 million gross in 10 years. Bank statements with 0 family deposits. Photos of the man camps, the burns on my arms. She played Tyler's recent TikToks. Him at a Denver club, throwing cash, caption Clean Life Hits Different. The judge's eyebrow went up. Uncle Ray testified last. Looked Dad in the eye. You told me yourself you were scared you'd enabled him too much. Now you're trying to take from the one who did everything right. It's not fair, Ron. The judge recessed, came back after 20 minutes. This court finds no evidence whatsoever of any enforceable agreement, oral or otherwise. No unjust enrichment. The manufactured home is solely the property of Caleb Brooks. Complaint dismissed with prejudice. Plaintiffs to pay defendants attorney fees of $22,400 and costs. Matter referred to the county attorney for review of possible false statements under oath. He looked at Tyler. Son, housing helps, but it doesn't fix what's inside. Get help that sticks. In the hallway, Dad grabbed my arm hard, veins bulging like they did when he was furious. You happy now? You just broke your mother's heart. Pulled away. No, Dad. You broke it years ago when you decided my sweat belonged to him. Mom sobbed dramatically, clutching her necklace. How can you do this to your brother? After all the sacrifices we've made. I said, better question. How could you do this to me? Tyler muttered, this ain't over. Smirking like he still expected to win. I looked him dead on. It is. Come near my place again, and you'll deal with trespass charges. Maria clapped me on the back outside as snow started falling. You stood up today, Caleb. How's it feel? I exhaled, watched my breath hang in the air. Felt like breathing for the first time in years. That weekend, a dozen guys from the local showed up with grills and coolers. We parked rigs around my new home, fired up the fireplace inside for the first time, told stories till dawn. Someone toasted to the guy who finally claimed his own dirt. 6 months on, Tyler relapsed hard, DUI in Mom's SUV. Dad called asking if I'd help with a new down payment for something stable. Voice still commanding like I owed him. I let it go to voicemail. Mom texts on birthdays. Tyler's trying again. He misses you. Complete with crying emojis and Bible verses about forgiveness. I read them, then archive. The home's got 8,000 miles towed behind my truck now, following jobs. A cracked window from hail in mine it, mud flaps scarred from gravel roads, coffee rings on the counters, no cleaner touches. It smells like pine cleaner and freedom. Some nights, off-hitch in the Badlands, I sit on the steps under stars that go forever, think about the kid who used to sleep in the garage so Tyler could have the bigger room. That kid's gone. I buried him the day the judge said sole owner, and my name in the same breath. I'm Caleb Brooks, 32, debt light, living in the home I bled for on frostbitten rigs and endless nights no one owes me for. And if anyone in my family tries to take these keys again, they'll learn real quick what a man protects when it's finally his.